Okay, so here we are. Another beautiful evening with a bit of snow. I wish I could show you a virgin path, but all of these tracks are actually mine in Mistra because this is such a beautiful place. We've been walking around a lot already. I wanted to take out the camera earlier, but, or I should have, I should say, but I didn't. Here is some nice virgin path though. That'll be nice because I had Misa running earlier off leash over there instead. But yeah, I was thinking a little bit more about the content of this series of videos and its intent, and I'm realizing that I don't have a fully defined mission statement. One of the things that I want to do though is a little bit about myself. I just recently had my first son. Felix is 4.5 months old, and being 40 myself, it's made me start to think about the type of stuff that I would like him to know. So I think that's going to be one of the goals of this series here. Not just to speak about how I see the world, but also the type of things that I would want to teach my son, or my future daughter, or other son if I ever have one. Not necessarily the most basic messages, but I will go ahead and talk about some that I think are important to me. They may presuppose some prior knowledge or experience that I might not have the time to pass on, or that I will pass on in the wrong order. But please forgive me. I'm gonna go by order of importance and not necessarily just from the simplest to the most complex idea, I think. The other thing that I want to discuss during these little videos is just whatever happened throughout the day, whatever's going on in my head. For example, today I finally plugged in, installed, and used for the first time our brand new TV. It is much larger than the one that we had before. Quite the beast in the living room. And I had specifically waited to watch Top Gun Maverick until I did install all of this in 4K and all of that stuff, because I might not have mentioned yet, but I am an officer in the Air Force, and I have worked with F-18s for a significant portion of my career, and it brings back a lot of thoughts, memories, goosebumps from flying to watch that movie. Plus, it's a great showcase of the technology in my new TV and the size of it. So anyway, as I was watching Maverick today, it made me think a little bit about how much the pop culture that we are exposed to shapes us. And I have been, I don't think that I joined the Air Force because of Top Gun. In fact, I'm pretty sure that I saw Top Gun for the first time after I was in the Air Force. I had joined the Air Force. Now, don't quote me on that. That might be wrong. But anyway, I do remember when I was young seeing a lot of military movies. And not necessarily military. That wasn't really a thing. Unlike many of the Chinese movies that my girlfriend and I watch, where it's very clearly the Chinese military saving the day and its officers. What I grew up with was more of the Commando movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, or the Rambos, or that type of movie where you had um, basically the outsider, the Maverick, who would somehow save the day despite everyone else. But that person usually, almost always, had acquired their special skill set that enabled them to resolve the situation through the military. So, hey, maybe that's one of those things that guided me and made me make that choice to join. I know, well, consciously, I don't think that's the case, and that's where it becomes interesting, because consciously, I know why I joined the military. I wanted to be an aerospace engineer since I was literally in second grade. There were a few detours, like I wanted to be a commando for a while, but or a neurosurgeon, but it was always an engineer in space for me. So consciously, at least, that's how I joined. That's why I joined. Sorry, and I did end up, fulfilling kind of several dreams in that aspect. I've worked at the Canadian Space Agency. I have flown with the snowbirds. I've done so much interesting aerospace stuff, and so consciously, that's why I think I joined. But hey, maybe unconsciously, those movies are one of the reasons why I even considered the military in the first place. Right? What do you think about that? Lisa, you see a squirrel? You see a rabbit? Lisa? Come on. Let's go. They're allowed to go back to their home. Lisa sniffing under the fresh snow. Let's go, Misa. Come on. Before you start barking at those people and waking up everyone. Okay. So, anyway, pop culture definitely shapes who we are. I guess everyone knew that. That's not the point. My point is that I think that in many cases it might be more unconscious than we think, and that might be on purpose. Funny how just as military tensions are rising with actual threats like the Chinese and Russia and big state actors, that suddenly there's a few more military movies like Oppenheimer and Maverick that are coming out. It's funny how that works, eh? And while everyone needed to stimulate the economy internally, it was all about the superheroes. Anyway, quite interesting how that works. I guess that's sort of just the thought of the day, is that most people will probably not be conscious of how much they are being influenced by what they see. People learn through imitation, so if all you watch is gangster shows, how do you think you're gonna act? If all you watch is Kardashians, how important do you think education's gonna be? So, just like it is with food, right? You are what you eat. You are what you, I guess you could generalize that to you are what you consume. And that does include media, right? Both the form and the content. So, maybe think about the type of stuff that you consume and where it leads you. Try to maybe diversify if you can, if that's an option. Read a few geek things. Read some nonfiction. Open up a philosophy book. Take a break from the reality shows and watch a highly rated sitcom if, you know, going into niche right away is too much for you. Just maybe try to broaden your horizons, because, and this will get to this, one of my central messages that I want to pass on to critics, to get back to the beginning, is that I truly believe that the biggest problem with mankind is that there's too many in-groups and out-groups. Doesn't matter what circumstance you're talking about, conflict comes from in-group versus out-group. What I mean by that is, you know, the us versus them mentality. Americans versus Brits, or, you know, soccer fans versus football fans, or hey, fans of the Habs versus fans of the Leafs, or people who are black and people who are white, or people who speak French and people who speak Ukrainian, Chinese. It doesn't matter. I think you get my point. People define in groups and out groups based on such narrow and insignificant parameters. Whether you're talking at the individual level, and that can, and or at the, you know, more complex societal level. I'll delve deeper into this another time. At the personal level, what I mean by that is can be as simple as I am the in-group, everyone else is not me, therefore it's okay for me to steal from someone else because they're not me. I don't care. It benefits my in-group, benefits the people that I care about, so I'm fine. I will do that. I have no moral obligation against that. But you expand it a little bit further and you say, hey, I'll never steal from my family, right? That's not okay. Okay, fine. But why stop there? That's such an arbitrary point, right? You could expand your in-group a little bit more. Base yourself off of different criteria, so that perhaps, you know, let's say you are, I'll take bad examples or gross examples just to illustrate the point. Let's say you are super racist against black people. Well, but you are, you know, 25th level, I don't know, sorry. I was gonna take a bad example. Clearly, I'm pretending to be a nerd example. And clearly I am. Let's say you've been dungeon mastering, you know, your Pathfinder campaigns for 20 years, right? And you're a big fan of the Montreal Canadiens, and your favorite food is poutine, let's say. Okay, well, what would, like, do you come across a person who also dungeon masters and Pathfinder, favorite food is poutine, and is a Habs fan, and you're gonna take that person as being not part of your group, or you're gonna be against that person because they happen to have black skin? Isn't that ridiculous? But you'll be friends with a buddy next door who's white, but whose only interests are guns and football. Right? And he's in your in group because he happens to be white, or because he happens to speak French and you also speak French, but the other person speaks English. Or, get my point? I'll stop belaboring it. People create in and out groups based on such silly parameters, arbitrary parameters, and maybe if you got to know someone who's in your quote unquote out group a little bit better, you realize that you have a lot more in common with them than you think, and maybe you will realize that, hey, they actually should be part of your in group. And if everyone would just expand their in groups a little bit more, we would resolve so many problems on this planet. But anyway, on that note, I feel that I have been rambling a little bit too much. My hands are cold, and we are about to get home. So thanks for listening for this still very much in trial type of video of the dog walk. Please leave, comments, likes, subscribes, shares, etc. I'm not really doing this for the revenue or for the popularity, but I do really appreciate any comments that anyone would have on to how I can improve my content, because I really think that this probably didn't go as well as it could have, and the only way that I can improve, or sorry, not the only way, but the fastest way that I can improve is by hearing your comments and acting upon it. So on that note, thanks a lot. Good night, Mr. And have a great one, everyone.